Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Frank Messina. Welcome to the May 6, 2025 meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission. Before we begin, we have a couple of announcements which we have to make. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on the smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28, 2025 signing of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law 3820, until June 30th, 2027. This meeting of the Chatham Select Board, well, I think that's a mistake. This meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission, unless I was promoted and I didn't know that, okay, is being conducted in person and via remote participation. You guys are trying to trick me, right? Okay. See, I do read it. Every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately address the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410, conference ID 420-664-705 hashtag, or join the meeting via Microsoft Teams through the link on the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, Xfinity Chatham 1072, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to do in real-time access. Okay, the first item that we have to attend to is a roll call. Bob Lear.
Here.
Nancy Barr.
Here.
Stephanie Hamilton.
Here.
Sandy Porter.
Here.
Janet Tennyson.
Here.
Robert Stevens.
Here.
Robert
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
And the chair is here. So we have all members are present and one alternate, Robert Wilson. Robert, we have a full contingent of members, so you will participate, but not participate in the actual voting. Okay, the next item on the agenda quickly is our minutes. We have minutes from April 1st, 2025. Everybody has had the minutes. I assume you have a chance to look at them. Any comments, corrections, deletions? Seeing none, a motion to approve.
I move we accept the minutes as written.
I'll second.
Second, thank you very much. Okay, quick roll call. Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't here.
Right, okay. Steph?
Yes.
Sandy?
I'm abstaining.
Janet?
I wasn't here.
Yes.
Robert?
I wasn't here. Abstain.
Votes yes.
Robert wasn't here.
Okay. All right, Nancy, you were not here. Yeah.
3 of us weren't here.
Oh, right, okay. Sorry about that, guys. All right, okay, we're good on that. We have 3 hearings and a couple of business items that we have to discuss under old business, and so it should be a relatively straightforward meeting. So why don't we just proceed direct to the hearing. The first application is 25007, to be heard in accordance with Chapter 158, 45 Crows Pond Road. William R. Riley, Esquire, presenting.
It's William F. Riley.
What was that?
It's William F. Riley.
What did I say, S?
You said R.
R, okay. Sorry about that, kid.
That's quite all right. All right, so, as you know, this first part of this building was built in 1910, but the current owner, it's a really small version of a Greek revival, and the way that it's been added onto it doesn't lend itself, in my client's size, to being modernized. So he wishes to remove it and build a new house. I'm not aware of any historical personages who live there, and I would say that while it's a small version of a Greek revival, there's nothing remarkable about the design. There are plenty of Greek revivals here in town. So I would suggest that you could find that the building's not historically significant.
That's it? Okay. This property and this building according to the Form B, members of the public, and just remind members of the board, what a Form B is when our paid professional, in this case, it was Eric Dre, did a survey of the town. We look at all the homes that are more than 50 years old, in fact, those which are approaching 100. And this obviously met that criteria. There is some documentation that may even be older than the 1906 and dates of construction. So there is a Form B on the property,
Right.
Mr. Riley.
I know.
And the Form B goes into the details of the design of the building. And you're right when you say it's not Queen Anne or Queen, et cetera, et cetera. And what the preservation consultant designated is what we call a style form vernacular, which means it's neither there nor there. It's in between, a combination of other activities. But as he notes in the Form Bs, this was typical of the homes that were built around in 1900, in the turn of the century. So, you're right, George Washington didn't sleep there, neither did William Nickerson. But in my opinion, the property does have some historical integrity in terms of architectural detail of the properties built around that time. Chatham is undergoing a lot of destruction of homes of various times, and this is probably a good example. Our process under Chapter 158, a demolition delay bylaw, is very simple to try and speak with the applicant to see if we can have a discussion on potentially saving the house or incorporating it into some kind of activity. In this case, we're not dealing with an applicant, we're dealing with a developer who's buying it, wants to put up another house, and that's where we are, right?
Well, that doesn't mean he didn't, he initially considered, trying to incorporate the house into a new design, but he felt that the existing structure is simply too small to really be incorporated in a way that is, handsome architecturally.
Do you think we could have that discussion with him? I'm creeping up, Bill, to the concept of the demolition delay.
Yeah, I
Whereas
understand.
rather than taking it down tomorrow, then there is no discussion, it's gone. And, we go through under our bylaw, and the intent of the bylaw is to encourage discussion, and that's why we don't say no, we can't say no, but we can delay it to encourage that discussion. And as you're very well aware of, if we have a discussion and it's like, oh, I can't, I don't want to do it, I want to take it down, I have other plans for the property. I mean, obviously, it's a big piece of property behind it, and he may have other thoughts in mind, but we're not having that discussion. And, in fact, we modified the bylaw, which you're well aware of, to say that the person, we were trying to stop real estate people from doing this, from just buying properties, tearing down homes, and not giving us a chance to talk of it. And that's why we have that bylaw, which requires that the person submitting the application has to be the current owner at the time. But if we go ahead and allow this to be demolished, we're not going to deal with the current owner. We're going to deal with, Mr. Sherborne. But
Well, in the first place, David
That's
Parrish.
where I'm coming from.
David Parrish owns the property. He's the owner of the property.
And he's Sherborne?
Sherborne LLC. It's an LLC that he uses for his building company. But he's the current owner of the property.
Yeah.
I don't know why you say he's not the owner, but
No, I didn't say
the
it was.
first question you're supposed to answer is whether the building is historically significant.
I feel it is as, in my opinion, we're gonna talk to everybody else, because we wouldn't have a Form B, we wouldn't have had the preservation consultant do a Form B on the property. The Form B is, where we go through the details of the design of the property and the architecture of the property. And I'll be honest with you, Bill, if there was no Form B on this property, if we didn't have the preservation consultant say it's something we should stop and look at, it probably would be a slam dunk. But there is a Form B, and it does show that there is certain architectural details which are probably worthy of being preserved, if we can do it. If we can't, we can't. We know that. So that's where I'm coming from. So, I gave my piece, and why don't we see what the other members of the commission will start at this end. Robert, do you have any thoughts on the matter? Yep. You're Robert. He's Bob.
Thank you, Frank. Yes, I'm looking at the front page here. And I do feel that this property has historic appeal, both in the appearance of it. It's a modest building, but it's got the character of many of the other buildings like it in Chatham and that are built in that time frame. Also, on the very front page, item 13 and 14 may or may not be correct. It says the building is on the National Register of Historic Places.
No, it's not.
No.
Okay, so that's incorrect. Okay, that's item 13.
Okay?
Could I respond to that?
Sure, absolutely, Bill.
Okay, so Robert's statement was accurate, except it didn't deal with the question of historical significance. In other words, the design was very commonplace. As Eric said, it's not a particularly good example, even, of a Greek revival. And there are, as Robert just mentioned, there are many other Greek revivals from this time frame in Chatham as well. So what is the historical significance of this building? So, that's really the first question you have to answer.
Got it. Yes, go ahead.
Yep, I just wanted to respond with one more point, and that is that in the document here, it explains that the Nickerson family did convey the house back in the very early days before the turn of the century, I believe, or it might be early 1900s. So the Nickersons presumably lived there?
No, they didn't.
They just owned it and didn't live there?
Oh, because they identify who built the house in the Form B.
And it was not they?
I think when it was conveyed by the Nickersons, it was still, it was property, but there was no structures listed on the deed.
Yeah, the Nickersons probably owned the land.
Says it included the.
They owned all the
It says
Chatham.
with no reference to buildings in the Form B.
Well, what I read, it said it conveyed the property that included the building.
Yes, that's correct.
So the property, the building was there.
It says a 9-acre parcel of land that included this property with no reference to buildings.
Oh,
Meaning-
it says no reference to building?
Yeah.
Or did you say no reference to?
No, it says a 9-acre parcel of land that
Okay.
included this property, meaning
I
that
was
part
saying
of
it's
the.
English.
Let me know when you're going to talk.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The most historically significant part about this property is that Charlie Shepherd owned part of it later.
That's true. We probably should do what Nantucket did. We should make the entire town of Chatham a National Register site.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay?
'Cause I
And then we wouldn't be having this discussion.
I don't have enough to do, so
You would be very rich. All right, everything else? Bob?
Well, I do think that there is some historical significance here, but it's more of a stretch than many of our other properties. It certainly, as Mr. Riley mentioned, doesn't include the additional standard criteria of some person in the cultural, economic, social, political history of the Commonwealth. The question then becomes, does it possess architectural value or significance in terms of period and style from the regulations?
Right.
And looking at it from one point of view, it's a common form of house that was built in Chatham in the mid-19th to earliest 20th century. And does the fact that it's common and doesn't stand out as a fantastic example of Greek revival, is that good for the town of Chatham to have common houses that don't quite fit a mold? I think so. I mean, I don't care if it's a really flashy one of two Greek revivals in town. Houses like this are what reflect what Chatham was, the polyglot kind of different things, 75 years ago. So I'm inclined to think it has some historical significance.
Thank you. Nancy, I call on you.
Thank you. Apologize for speaking out of turn. I would say that, just to extend what my fellow commissioners have said, I believe that a modest Greek revival built by a fisherman who didn't have all the money to do all the bells and whistles to be a perfect example of the architectural style of the day is actually significant, potentially, to the history of our town. And this house is significantly over our 75-year cutoff in its age. And therefore, I think that as a modest Greek revival built by a fisherman in a fishing town, it could be considered significant historically.
Yes? Go ahead. Yes, I'm sorry.
Well, I agree with everything that's been said by my colleagues heretofore, so I do believe that it is a representative of the history of Chatham, the design that existed 150 years ago or whenever. So I think it does have historical significance.
Thank you. Steph?
Yes, I feel it does have historical, well, whatever you want to say. I feel that it's a good example of what was existing, as Nancy said, when it was a fishing town only.
Thank you. Sandy?
The nice thing about being at the end is I don't have to create anything to say. I just get to agree with what went before me. I agree. I don't want to see it torn down.
Thank you. Robert?
Well, Chatham is kind of dying by a death of 1,000 cuts. Every time we lose a house, the value for everybody in the town goes down. And while I'm struggling to see something that's maybe historically significant about the house, I do agree that because of its age and its consistency with the rest of the town, that I would find it historically significant. Now, I'm sure Bill knows there's an advantage to this, is that if it's historical significant, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that opens up about 125% leeway on setbacks and other parts of the property. So it doesn't appear from the application that anybody spent any serious time at trying to figure out what the core house was, and if that core house could be lifted and expanded in a similar style that would not result in just another big modern house built here. So I don't know if property is a big issue here, whether 125% on setbacks would make a difference in the development. But I'd sure like to see a preservation architect look at this and really seriously consider, because I think there's a market for these kinds of homes. I don't think everybody wants just big modern homes with airstrips in the back and tennis courts and that kind of thing. So I know that my conversation maybe didn't take us anywhere, but I just hope that the owner would consider spending some time to really see if the core house could be lifted and expanded and be consistent with the town, rather than just bulldozing it down and taking the easy way out.
Thank you. Well said.
Enough.
Yeah, could I respond to that
I think-
briefly?
Surely.
All right, so back in 1977, there was a Greek revival farmhouse. It's across the street from Pate's Restaurant. And the main house was similar in size to that, and there was a wing on it. And then they had a summer kitchen. and a small addition in the back. And so I moved that house. I moved it up to Stepping Stones Road, and I lived in it for over 20 years. And so when you talk about adding something to a Greek Revival design, the only way to add something to it without overwhelming it is to have a similar L that goes off to the side. And, that's not, it's not a large addition. My family grew up there, we had a wonderful time, but, the idea that, they should be able to add something to it. Well, if they add something that would reflect the value of the property, which is part of the problem we have here, it would completely overwhelm what's here. And so I appreciate the concern. I'm just telling you sort of the practicalities of it, that's all.
Thank you. I like the fact that you're also becoming an architect in addition to.
I'm not an architect. I
only
lived in
kidding.
one of these houses for 20 years.
I understand. All right, yes, Steph.
I just want to say it's not necessarily that an addition is going to be put on. There are other things that could happen, like a house could be moved.
Yeah. All right, I think we have a
Well,
consensus
that's true.
here.
I've done it myself.
Well,
Excuse me.
I also would like to say that sounds like, just to put a point on something that has come up, is that most of us, I believe, are talking about the Greek Revival main portion of the house and not the existing one-story L and the garage.
Right.
And if we were talking about saving the main part and the other part, I think we might have a different
Right,
reaction to
exactly.
the
But
project.
this is the issue of having a discussion with the owner at some particular time. I think we got to take this in two steps, and we're going to close this off. I think first, let's just deal with the issue of historical integrity, Bob. Can you give us a motion? I guess your comments earlier relative to architecture are probably valid.
I think so. I move that the Chatham Historical Commission finds that. I move that the Chatham Historical Commission finds that the building located at 45 Corrs Pond Road is historically significant because it is in whole or in part 75 years old or more and possesses architectural value or significance in terms of period and style.
Okay, we have a second?
Second?
Thank you very much. Any other comments, questions? Okay, roll call. Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. The issue of demolition delay, I mean, I'll ask you to make a motion, Bob, but I don't know how people feel. We could make it a year, and give us more than sufficient time. And I always give the same speech. Any particular time you want to come back, my number. And, we'll be happy to discuss it and see if we could, and if it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. But I think we owe it to the town, we owe it to the bylaw to give it a shot, to give it a chance.
I agree, and I support the concept, absolutely.
Right.
But part of the difficulty, like as Stephanie mentioned, well, the house could be moved. That's true. But when you call the house mover, it's $100,000 before they, and then you got to
Understand.
find a place to move it. It's too tall, you have to cut the roof off,
All right.
these are the
We're with you.
problems, that's all.
You got a quick one?
I just wanted to make a suggestion. One of the houses that came before us, probably 3 years ago or 4 years ago, it's on the corner of Sam Ryder Road and Old Queen Anne Road Extension. And it was an 1880 home, very, very bad disrepair. Long story short, the developer ended up buying it for a song and saved the major part of the house and then put an extension on, and it's turned out beautiful. And it looks very, very similar to the original style.
Okay.
I agree, I represented him.
Bob?
Did we decide on a length of demolition delay?
Well,
You mentioned a year, that's why
I
I'm
mentioned a
just
year,
asking.
and I just, I threw it up, see who would stick to the wall. I lost my pen top. But, we could, why don't we pass this? I'm putting out a year can I have a kind of a head shake, yes, no, maybe, feeling about it? Well, rather than the 18 months. That's what I'm saying. I'm just, it's not my decision.
I just had one comment, and I really, what Robert Stevens said resonated with me. Let's have, if possible, feasible, a preservation specialist take a look at it, and that would help in the interim time, a recommendation to the owner, okay?
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, we don't have a preservationist, as part of the town.
They can
And
find one.
we kind of encourage the applicant to reach out like that. I know where Robert's coming from, there happens to be an organization that he has some association with vaguely, that occasionally has, provided that, and I guess we could reach out to that organization to see if they are interested in that. But I happen also to know that organization is head over heels in things they're doing. So, Bob, do you think it's worthy to ask, that organization whether they are interested? And more importantly, whether the applicant is even interested in discussing it with that. It's up to you, Mr.
Well, the last time I agreed on behalf of a client to allow
Yes,
a preservationist to go through it,
I agree.
I was deeply disappointed
Yeah.
in the lack of objectivity he used, because from his point of view, everything was worth saving, everything. The subfloor was worth saving. And, it's just, that guy wasn't living in the real world, so.
I happen to agree with you. We're not dealing with a, 1,700 home, but, I'd like to leave it at this particular point, leave it back to the applicant and whether or not
Right.
they want to take it to the next step.
Yeah, no, and I'll discuss it with my client, and I'll point out the advantages of doing that.
Okay. Bob?
Consensus is a year.
I think we got a consensus, or close to it.
Okay. Chatham Historical Commission also finds that the proposed work to be done as a full demolition will materially diminish the historic significance of the building. Therefore, the commission imposes demolition delay in the amount of 365 days.
I second that.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, changes? Yes, sir.
With the condition that that the owner or developer can come back to us at our
Yes.
very next meeting.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, we kind of leave that open,
okay.
and knowing that it's tradition within the commission, and they know that they could come back in any particular.
Yeah, I just don't want them to feel that they have to sit on their hands for a year.
No, it's an issue of, we don't require them to come back to us. We just encourage them to come back to us.
Oh, and and clients of mine have come back, so
Yes, they have.
familiar with the process.
It's worked. We don't get 100%, but it has worked. Okay, we're going to do a roll call. Bob,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes?
Steph,
Yes,
Sandy,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes,
and the chair votes yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, don't go far. The next application is 7 Surrey Lane. This is also to be heard in accordance with Chapter 158. And this is for a partial demolition, or actually a change. For those of us who made the site visit yesterday on a very pleasant street with a beautiful cherry tree in the front yard, it's quite an interesting home. So, okay, there's no Form B for this property. I guess the property, I'm looking for the age of it. So it's in the 40s.
1940s, I think.
Yeah, so it's kind of one of these properties that kind of squeezes into it, and really, it's something that we often have to talk over the issue of historical significance, when there was in fact a survey done and there was no Form B on the property. And just for information, because we do have a new
Who's
member-
controlling the screen? Can we put the picture back up?
Yeah. I just want to make one point before, like, well, Bob, if you look at the summary which
Enlarge the top page.
Christina provides, we asked the question, is there a Form B? No.
There you go, perfect.
Is it listed on the National Register? No. On the status of the town survey, it's on the no list, which means our preservation consultant looked at it and said no. So just like in the previous one, we had where the preservation looked at it and said yes. In this case, he is agreeing up front. Now, I'm sorry, Bill, just a quick aside. What this commission needs to do at some particular point, just as we've done to try and speed things along with the administrative review process, this is a decision which can't be made according to the current bylaw by anyone else other than the commission. Is it historically significant? And we need to find a way, and that's like grabbing a grease pig. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but it's something to think about on how we could make it a little bit more user-friendly to the applicant, to the people in the town, on how we do it. So we don't have every application of every home 75 years old coming before the commission. So I don't know how to grab it, but it's just an issue, and I just want to agree with you, Bill, that we're aware of the issue and the problem. Okay.
The
after that
reason I
speech-
asked Annie to put the picture up is because the house itself is remaining as it is. It's just the breezeway roof and the garage are being removed and replaced. So the house, to whatever extent it's got, architectural interest, is going to remain. So, just so you know.
Okay, it's rather straightforward relative to what the applicant's trying to do, and I guess really the big issue is how do we feel about historical significance? So I'll start at this end. Robert?
So our first issue is to determine if it's historically significant.
Yes.
Okay. I believe that it isn't,
Okay.
and I was there at the site visit yesterday. I thought the owner had considered all kinds of options so he could get some additional space, and I think what he's doing is just fine, really.
Good. Okay. Sandy?
I was not at the site visit, however, I did go by the house, and I don't see any
Speak into the mic a
significant,
little bit more, Sandy.
I don't see any historical significance.
Thank you. Okay.
I don't see any historical significance, especially after I heard that the house was built in 1949. Is that right? Yeah, so even year-wise, I don't see anything.
Okay. Nancy?
Well, I think that
Sorry.
it's historically significant only by virtue of age, but the changes, it's just a nice Cape Cod house that is not going to be altered significantly by the changes being proposed by the owner, and I think that's a good idea to go ahead with this. I have no problem with it.
Nancy?
I agree. I have no problem in terms of significance or in terms of the work that's being proposed.
Robert?
I have no problems with it.
I have no problems with it. I think it's not historically significant as well.
Okay. All right, and I agree, I guess, with the consensus of the members. So it's very straightforward. We'll take a motion relative to the historical significance. Bob?
Okay, I move that Chatham Historical Commission finds that the building located at 7 Surrey Lane is not historically significant because it does not meet any of the definitional criteria in section 158-2 A, B, or C of the bylaw. Therefore, the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? Any member of the public wish to speak? Nope. Okay, we'll do.
My grandchildren will thank you for the extra space.
I'm sorry?
My 5 grandchildren will thank you for the extra space.
All right, well, I apologize. They're banging on the window because you're not on the microphone, but I will convey that the applicant is indicating that his grandchildren are happy. I guess they can have a place to play video games. Okay. All right, here we go. Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes?
Steph?
Yes,
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, and good luck. Thank you. Take care of that cherry tree. It needs a pruning.
Yeah.
Needs a pruning. Okay, last application. Is there somebody online with this one?
Yes.
25009, heard in chapter 158. It's intent to 91 Gillis Road. It says a full demolition, but really what it is a move. And I think most of us who made the site visit were pleased in looking at that wonderful site. So who do we have here? I know it's not Bernadette.
It is.
Say again?
Bernadette, I believe, is presenting.
Bernadette, you're here? I thought you were on vacation.
She was in Florida, right?
This is Tom Gillis's daughter. I think Bernadette's having audio problems.
I'm sorry.
She's in Savannah on vacation.
Can you
Bernadette,
speak
are you
up?
getting your audio working?
Can you speak up and introduce yourself slowly?
Sure. This is Tom Gillis's daughter. My name is Kate Shell. Looks
Hold on
like
one
Kajil.
second. Can we improve that in any way?
Can I try again? Can you hear me now?
Not well.
No, we can't hear you well. Are you speaking on your phone or a computer?
No, I'm on a computer.
All right, well, that's better. Use your theater
I'm gonna lean
voice.
closer to the microphone. How does this?
All right.
Is it better?
All right, one more time for this person who's hard of hearing. Could you introduce yourself again?
My name is Kate Shell. It looks like Kajil. And I am the daughter of Tom Gillis, who is the owner of record on 91 Gillis Road.
Well, you have the street named after yourself. That's pretty neat.
It is really neat. There's a lot of very cool history on Gillis Road.
Right. Well, it's a beautiful, beautiful site, and I live close to Cockle Cove Marsh, and so it's close to my heart here. All right, so why don't you just give us a quick introduction to what you're planning to do?
Sure. So the cottage that's on 91 Gillis Road right now was built in 1924, I think, 26, 25, right there. And it's a Sears and Roebuck catalog cottage. My grandfather built it, and my family has summered there for many years. It's very dear to us. So instead of tearing it down, we would like to move it across the street so that we
Unknown
could build.
participant is now joining.
Okay. Is that you, Bernadette?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, well, let's,
good.
one at a time, please.
All right. I'll finish and then I'll let you chime in, Bernadette.
Unknown participant is now exiting.
Okay. Any rate, we are looking to move the cottage across Gillis Road so that we could then build a new home on that spot that would be winterized. But our desire is that we maintain and preserve as much as the original integrity of the cottage as we can.
Okay. Now, you want to move the cottage. Does that include the bathtub?
I want to make the bathtub into a planter.
Okay.
Unknown participant is now joining.
Okay, let me say a couple of words. Bernadette, do you wish to add something to this?
Not really, unless you feel it's important.
Okay, let me just summarize it, because the connection's not too good, if you don't mind, and just kind of correct me. So we have a situation of a property that's, well meets our 75 years old, and although it's, hold on one second, I'm correcting myself. Looking at the Form B, on the particular cottage, I think it really adds a significant, and technically, it's delineated in terms of the architecture as a craftsman style. Did not get a chance to go inside, but I assume the same detail from a craftsman period of that time is carried in back from the early 1920s. So it is a lovely house, and I think from our perspective, when you read the Form B on the property, in terms of talking about how it's designed and its location, I think we're very pleased as a commission that you're going to save the house and move it across the street, so you can build a new house on that particular property. So if I understand also, you're planning to put a small addition on the cottage after you move it?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. And I guess from looking at the drawings, Annie, why don't you put the drawings up? At least there you go. I think as the members of the commission and the public can see, that there's really no real demolition other than the skirt which surrounds the foundation of the property, which is going to be removed on the other side. And you can see, if you go down to the next drawing, a couple of drawings. There you go. You can see there's a small addition on the side of the property that's being added. So from my perspective, and we might have consensus with the commission, that I think we feel strongly, agreeing with the Form B, this house is historically significant. We can deal with that first and then deal with the issue of a demolition delay. Does anybody else wish to comment relative to the historical significance?
I just want to say that I'm very happy that it's being saved that much.
Thank you. Robert, you're okay with it?
Yes, I'm totally okay with it. I'm just thrilled that they're going to save it, and in the process of saving it, they're certainly not going to just move it across the street and dump it there. They're going to rehab this thing to bring it back to its former life, which means it won't come back to this committee during any of our lives. So I'm in favor of it.
Very good. Okay. Janet, you have anything you add? Oh, Sandy?
I'm in favor of
Thank you.
the move.
I'm in favor. I'm delighted they're going to save it.
Nancy?
I completely agree, and my only question is, when you add the addition, it looks like there's like 4 windows that are original that are in decent shape. I'm not an expert, but are you going to try to reuse those in any way?
We're going to try to, but we aren't sure if they're rotten or not.
Okay.
Thank you. Robert?
I'm in favor of it. We've been discussing for a while how to save pieces of a gone cottage colony once almost all the cottages are gone. So this stops that loop. It's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, from my perspective, I'm also delighted they're saving it. The passion of the owners, of the Gillis family, is clear to try to maintain this building, which was a Sears cottage. And I'm particularly, I'm going to commend them for keeping the chimney.
Yes.
It's fantastic, because a chimney means that you probably had to heat your house with wood or coal, which is, dates it way back when oil and gas weren't so prevalent.
Couldn't have said it better. Thank you very much. Okay, and I agree also. So why don't we just dispense quickly with a motion for historical significance?
Okay, I move Chatham Historical Commission finds that the structure located at 91 Gillis Road is historically significant because it is in whole or in part 75 years old or more, and is associated with some historical persons in the town and possesses architectural value or significance of period and style in conjunction with other properties that were there as part of a colony.
Thank you very much. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? All right. Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay, Bob, we want another motion for no,
Oh, yeah, sorry. Chatham Historical Commission also finds, oh, shit, sorry. Chatham Historical Commission also finds the proposed work to be done dated April 4th, 2025, will not materially diminish the historic significance of the building, and therefore the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
okay,
Second?
second, thank you very much. Any other comments? Okay, roll call, Bob,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Steph,
Yes,
Sandy,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. I have one very important question. What's going to be the address? Will it also be Gillis Road?
100%.
Well, good luck, and thank you very much. And as Bob indicated, Mr. Lear, you know, the issue of cottage communities, especially in South Chatham, is an issue close to my heart and one that we kind of wrestle with. How do we try to maintain some of the cottages and the time of Chatham when it was 100, 125 years ago? And this is how people visited and enjoyed Chatham. Well, again, thank you very much.
Thank
Okay.
you, and thanks to Christina and Annie for shepherding me through the process, and Bernadette.
You're very
Thank
welcome.
you.
You're quite welcome. Thank you. Okay,
Unknown participant
was
is
short and
now
sweet.
exiting.
I keep hearing things. Okay.
someone's just in.
We have a couple of items that we need to talk about. And the first item under old business require a little clarification. And that's the housing development at the West Chatham Housing Development on 15, is it 1563, 1533. Okay, what's going on there, just for the commission, just for clarification, as you're aware, the applicant, Penrose Development, came to the Historical Commission, and he went to the Planning Board, and they went to the HBDC, and they presented the preliminary plans, and it was kind of like a handshake, get-to-know us kind of thing. We had some preliminary comments, and they went away, and the other boards and commission had some preliminary comments, and they went away. We, as a commission, responded to Mass Historical Commission when they asked for comments relative to the historical integrity of the site and when the impact upon it. Mass Historic made a determination that they felt there was no significant impact to the historic district. Well, that's fine. Okay. Now, the process is one that the next step in the process for this development to go forward, because this is what's called the 40B, we as a commission, a historical commission, don't have any authority, technically. All our authority and the planning board's authority and the HBD's authority gets rolled into one comprehensive permit before the ZBA. So the ZBA, the Zoning Board of Adjustment, effectively becomes the ruling authority for the town of Chatham. The reason that the state law did that is they didn't want properties which are trying to build affordable housing to be bogged down in multiple different boards and commissions. So now there's just one board, which is the ZBA. Now, the applicant, Penrose, has submitted an application which is called a comprehensive permit to the ZBA. Big deal, okay? It's about 300 or 400 pages, okay? I did email it to you guys, but reading that stuff in the email is good luck on that. Luckily, we did get a copy, a hard copy, which,
Yeah, the chairs of the other boards, just the chairs got the copies.
just the chairs, so, well, that's nice. I guess they didn't want to kill too many trees. So, but now, at some particular point, because the ZBA is acting as the overall permitting authority, they do want our input. In other words, we can't vote on it, but they do want to know, what do you think, okay? So it's a big deal, it's a very complicated process. Now, the ZBA on Thursday at 2 o'clock is going to begin the process. In other words, they have X number of days to start the process. So they're starting it. So at 2 o'clock, right here on Thursday, they will open up the hearing. It's the beginning of the hearing. That hearing can take 180 days or longer, so it's a long process. There's an awful lot for the zoning board of commission, ZBA, is it commission? Appeal. Yeah, ZBA. What's the A?
Appeal.
Appeals, zoning board of appeals. Thank you very much. What would I do without you guys? Anyway, so we have to give formal comments. Now, at first, I thought I had to do it by Thursday. Well, they said, thank goodness, Sarah Clark said, no, the Thursday meeting is just an introduction, okay? That they're going to segment the application, and there'll be one day, we don't know when, that they're going to talk about historical. Another day, they're going to talk about traffic. In other words, that's my understanding. And luckily, Christine is shaking her head in the positive direction and agreeing with me. So I need to prepare some additional comments from the Historical Commission, okay? And I would like to form a consensus, and not to be just Frank Messina's opinion, but our opinion. When we did it the last time, I think there was consensus that we were not too happy with the cookie cutter approach of the design and, and the density. We had questions in traffic. But I'd like to begin the process again and spend at least 15 minutes or so, and to look at some of the detail again and just get your thoughts. So what I did is I asked Annie to effectively put it on the screen. So what you have there is the overall development, what it's going to look like. I guess that's 30 years from now when the trees all grow, okay? So that's what the development looks like. And down below, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 different designs. So effectively, they're putting up, I don't know how many buildings, quite a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 12 houses with 4 different designs. That's my first problem. Okay, guys, could you vary it a little bit, so it doesn't look like a development, okay? And my problem, and I'm giving you my opinion, you guys pipe in here, they kind of all look the same, and there's not sufficient variety, so it doesn't look like they were all built at the same time and the same design. And I know in conversation with them, they at one meeting, they said, well, they're going to vary the design. And what they did is they said, we're going to paint the doors a different color. And I go, that's not it. So I'm hoping, at least from my perspective, and hopefully there's some concurrence with the rest of the commission, we would like to encourage them to vary the design. I'm not saying they got to, do a 1776 design, but do something to try and to vary the design. The other issue, if you notice, these buildings, a couple of these buildings are 35 feet high, 3 stories. And with a town in which we have a 30-foot, yeah, right, exactly. And why did they do that? They did that, in my opinion, is because they were able to stick a couple of apartments in the third floor. So they're really trying to shoehorn a lot of stuff in, okay? And that bothers me a bit, especially from historical significance. So the third item is for my perspective, is the fourth design. If you notice, there's 3 different designs. The 4th design over to the right is in fact not a residence, that's the community center. I know I had questioned it, why do we need a community center? There is a community center. And they have good reasons why they want to do it, but, and I know the HBDC, specifically Dan Silver, he had a real objection to it, significant objection to the need for a community center in Chatham when we have a community center, and you're wasting a lot of space. So that's a comment. If you could go forward about 2 sheets. I guess, can you enlarge that? Well, that's close enough. Okay, and you could see what's happening. And this is the common design element. These 2 gables and if you keep going, to the next one. And you can see, and then to the next one. And I guess that's my point. I don't know about you, but they all look the same. You know, they have the same similar, you know, and so that's kind of where I feel, at least from an historical commission perspective, what we could add comments to. So I'm going to be quiet now and let you guys pipe in how you feel about it. And yes, Rob?
I had a quick question on the community center, so-called, which I guess was half for the staff, 2 staff members to live in, as I recall.
I don't know if they're living there.
No, they're not going to be living
They
there.
just commute and stay there all day. Yeah.
No, they're not living
It's
there, that's just their
offices.
office.
That's what I was just saying, they commute and then work all day, okay.
It's their office
Yeah,
and their
yeah.
workplace.
But I'm getting my point, my question, which was, earlier, we talked about that, and it was sort of right in your face as you first approached it.
Yeah.
And it's still there. And do
It's
they
still there.
look at moving it somewhere? or-
It's still there. It's still there.
Yeah, would that be another comment that we could?
Yeah, we could, you know, we could, it's, you know, it's a square thing here and,
Yeah.
okay. Anybody else? Bob, you want to pipe in or?
No, I agree. It's sort of what I was talking about earlier in terms of Chatham is made up of a bunch of different things and not all one of the same, which is what they're offering to us. So it's a key factor. Now, making it look a little bit different, the doors don't quite do it, but maybe some different shapes of the gables or whatever, or even having well, they're the architects, but they know how to make it look different. It's easier not to for them.
Okay. Nance?
Yeah, not only is it not varied, but it's really not a very typical look for a Chatham residence. And by having all these connected structures that don't vary very much and don't really look like the houses that people are building even now, I think it looks very institutional. And the combination of the lack of variation, the style that they've chose to repeat, they've elongated, so like you go from a style which is relatively in scale, but then you stretch it out. Anyways, yeah, I feel like it looks very institutional, and I believe that community building, although I understand their logic for the function, adds to the institutional look of it, because it looks like you've got a doctor's office out front or something like that, smack dab in what's supposed to be a residential area. It's very clearly more of an institutional building than it is a residential building, and and those are my biggest problems with it.
Okay. You're up, kid.
Well, this is kind of tricky because I know what the objective is, and that's to provide housing for people that want to live in and be active in our community, and in houses that they can afford to rent, or that aren't $4 or $5 million, you know, so I know what they're trying to do here. But I think they could be a little bit more imaginative, probably, with the design. And I do think it's important to have that initial, they can make it look more attractive, but that, what they're calling the community center, I think it's important to have it there. And it provides other, it's not just a community center, it's administration, and it's helping these people sort things out that they need to sort out, and it's a place where kids can go that can't necessarily get themselves, they don't have parents to get themselves to the community center in town. I don't have a problem with the community center. I think it could look a little bit more, I think it's a misnomer to call it it's not only a community center, but it's a recreation center and administrative center. But they could be a little bit more imaginative with the design, I think.
Thank you.
I am worried about there's cookie cutter homes, But the thing I'm worried about the most is the height. It just doesn't fit into our territory.
I have a couple of issues. One is the height, and I question the height. How are they going to get around the 30-foot height limit?
Well, the process is, and what I understand, is the fact that effectively, the ZBA, the Zoning Board of Appeals, not I remember that, they can give a variance, okay? And they've done it in the past, not necessarily that height, so it's up to them. I'm not sure of the process. If they give a variance, then that's it, then it can be built.
Here's a question I have for them. If they give a variance, are they willing to pay for the new fire truck, the ladder truck, to go to 35 feet?
Fire trucks are not under my jurisdiction. Yeah,
But
no, I
that's a
agree with you.
question, that's a question, Frank. When you raise that, and I've watched it with friends who live in Hyannis,
Yeah.
you know, look at the hospital. Every time the hospital adds something and makes it taller, the people in Hyannis, or Barnstable, as it was, end up of supporting and having to pay for a new fire truck to support a ladder truck to support the height. So even though it doesn't sound like much, there's an issue about being able to, can we, with the equipment, fire equipment we have, support 35 feet? That's my first issue.
Yeah, well,
And
that's,
secondly, I think they're cookie cutter. Come on, they can do better than that. This is Chatham. They want to be here. They need to put more thought into it. And
Well, I agree.
third, what about the parking? All these houses, eventually, these little kids are going to grow up and they're going to drive. And there's a parking issue and a roadway issue.
well, if you go into this, they have an exhaustive study here relative to parking, and, I mean, I'm just saying, thank goodness we're not the ZBA, okay?
You are so correct.
Robert?
Yeah, well, I agree with everything that's been said here. What this all boils down to, everything springs from density. We're taking roughly 3 acres, or a little more than 3 acres, and we're trying to put a lot of cars, put a lot of people. We want to go up. We want to have a community center. All these things are fine, but the density is way off. And the people that did the planning, they either don't own a camera or they've never come to Chatham, because this doesn't look like anything that belongs in Chatham. And I'm for this affordable housing, for worker housing. My understanding is that these units will be sold. I may have this wrong.
No, this is rental.
They are going to be rentals? Okay.
Yeah,
So
that
I
was the
have,
controversy when they selected Penrose, because the other applicant had a mix of rental and ownership, except, you see, that this comes down to dollars and cents here. When the town has the land and they're letting the town use the land, the town will get paid back for the land that they're using. But this company, Penrose, in perpetuity, this is the rental agent.
Yes.
It makes its money by renting the apartment, so it's complicated. Like I said, we're not the ZBA. I want to comment relative to historic preservation, blah, 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 blah.
okay. Well, I still have some more comments. Like I
Oh,
said,
go,
I'm
please.
for affordable housing. You probably all think that I'm not, but I am. But I'm not for this project.
not saying-
And I want to explain why. These are 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, and based on the number of people that might live in each unit, I came up with about 110 people for 48 parking spots. And of the 48 parking spots, I understand that a couple of them will be reserved for the people that manage the property. And then there'll be some electrical charging stations. So you're probably going to end up with about 1.2 parking spots per person. And as Sandy said, when these young people do grow up, they get cars when they turn 16, or the wife gets a car and the son or daughter borrows it. And so I believe there's going to be a parking problem. I don't know if they're going to park at Job Lot or where they're going to go. But it all comes down to density. So I'm for affordable housing. I'm not for this project.
Okay. I would just want to say, I'm going to put something together based upon this conversation. But there are issues that you're raising, which I think are probably inappropriate for us as a historical commission, but I would encourage you, there are going to be multiple hearings, and, you know, write a letter and let them know how you feel. And they're supposedly looking for feedback, and I have the feeling they're going to get it. Now, whether they do anything about it is another story. Yes,
I don't think we can make our decision based on 16 years out if they're going to have cars and multiple cars, because I don't think they're going to stick around because you really aren't that, they'll go off to be educated or get jobs or something. I think this is for rentals for people that that are working here, and they want to live here, and we want them to live here. So, I
Yeah.
mean, come on.
I understand. All right.
Sorry, can I?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Can you make sure, I mean, I think I heard it from everybody, that their point is made that the Historical Commission members are in favor of
Oh, yes.
affordable housing
I think
and
I
the
did
development of
in the
this?
previous
Yeah,
one.
yeah, I'm
I
just
started it off like
If you
that.
could reiterate
Oh,
that,
absolutely. Yeah, no.
we are not, you know, we are in support of it. All of us understand why there needs to be housing there, and we're support of that, but we believe it could be more in keeping with the historic.
Well, I appreciate the comments, and what I'm going to do is reach out. There was some very eloquent things said here. If you don't mind putting your thoughts in a quick email to me, the chair would love to. I can't write as quickly as you guys were talking, but but if you have some thoughts that you want to share with me that we can incorporate into some kind of, you know, comments from the Historical Commission. By the way, the ZBA does this all the time. As Christina will get an application that we had heard, the ZBA will reach out to me as chair and say, does the Historical Commission have any comments? And generally, you know, we'll pass back our determination and any comments, you know, so this is part of the process. I mean, technically, this is like any other ZBA hearing, technically. All right, I'm going to move on, and, but if you would send me some comments, I'd appreciate that. Just quickly on old business, and we can probably end this pretty quickly. Review of rules and regulation, we're awaiting a town meeting, a town attorney decision. Okay, Christina's shaking her head yes, which means we have generated a request to town council to speak to the issue of administrative review process and the possible delegation of historical significant decision. And that's what I was referring to before, that we need to understand our process. The good news is, well, it's not super good news yet, but in conversation with Holly Herbster in reference to the William and Ann Nickerson home site, the Mass Historical Commission had 30 days after we submitted our request for determination of eligibility, and I think that 30 days ends this week, so hopefully we're going to hear from Mass Historic that, yes, this site is eligible for listing on the National Register. We will then take it the next step, and Christina and Katie and I are already working on to assemble the necessary funds to submit the formal application. Speaking about that, you know, in June, our friends, the Nickerson Family Association, is going to be having a bond raising. I don't know if you saw that. This is the bond that we wrestled with on 68 Shell Drive. Geez, I remembered the address. And, you know, and it possibly, William Nixon may not have built it, but it was on the property he lived on for many years. So we'll get some information that it's going to happen in June during Historic Chatham's History Month. So anyway, we'll hope to hear soon. As soon as I know, you'll know. Christina is also working with Eric Dre to try and find the necessary funding and contracting process for Eric to continue the update of the Form As and Bs in accordance with our direction. Things take time, but we're working it. Demolition by neglect, I haven't heard from her. Is she here?
I believe she is in today. There was a time of day she was not in today, but I have not got an update from her.
Okay, we're talking about Christine O'Grady, the new principal planner, who's supposed to be looking into this for us. It's dragging on, but what we're going to do. The Coast Guard Boathouse, it's still on track for a return, and hopefully things are going to happen soon with that. Be here before fall 26, before we know it. That's all I have. I think the rest is, we have nothing new in terms of administrative approvals?
Not to ratify today.
No. That's it. Any questions?
I have a very small minor point, but in the William and Ann Nickerson section, I think if we're going to keep it on our agenda, if we're going to put it into quotes, we should put the name that was actually submitted, because I know that was a point of concern for people. So I think that if we're going to put it in quotes, let's put the actual name that was submitted. And
Sure.
You
I
mean
can
the
do
William
that.
and Ann Nickerson home site on the Watermark Archaeological, whatever that was?
well, yeah, it's in quotes,
okay.
and that's not what was submitted. So either don't put it in quotes.
It was when I did this 3 years ago.
No, that's what I mean. I'm requesting an update to our paperwork as the secretary of the board.
Okay. Well, as far as the Nickerson's concerned, it's still the Nickerson home site. Yeah, we won't talk about that. Okay.
Only half the ownership.
Yeah. All right, I don't have anything else. I think we did enough. Anything else? Motion for adjournment? Oh, excuse me, before we go, when's our next meeting?
Our next meeting is May 20th.
May 20th. And we have applications?
I believe we have one.
Okay. All right, so just
I
May
move,
20th, I know it's that time of year. Excuse me, Nancy, go ahead.
I move we adjourn.
I second.
All right, Bob,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Steph,
Yes.
Sandy,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
chair votes yes. Thank you very much.